What's that? Another tier list video? Let's go!
So, if there's one thing that you guys love to watch on our channel is tier lists. And we haven't uploaded a tier list in a long time because we already thought like there's nothing to tier list anymore.
We've tier listed for like hours on end.
But we figured it out. We have one more tier list for you guys and we actually have another one in the pipeline at some point. Today we're going to be tier listing platforms to release your game on. So if you're a developer, sometimes people come to me and they're like, oh, should I make a game for Steam? Should I make a mobile game? Should I make a web game? We're gonna answer all of those questions and some more that you never even asked in this video, so be sure to stick around. Before we jump in, let's get a few things still out of the way.
Couple of rules.
We're focusing on indie games. So, you know, we're not a huge company that has like, can make like Genshin Impact, for example, that's on both mobile and on Steam and on like every other platform you can imagine. We're looking at, you know, the small group teams of like 1 to like 5, 6 developers at most who are going and planning on making their own game on a platform. Second off is that we're leaving the whole genre thing out of the way. There are certain genres that simply work better on like certain platforms. For example, Forge Industry Arcane would be horrible as a mobile game, but that doesn't mean that mobile games are bad, for example. So we're talking very general here in should you, as a beginning game developer, go for a mobile game or go for another kind of game. It depends on your game, it depends on your concept, but you know, we don't care about that in tier lists. We only want black and white statements here and we want to offend you guys as much as possible. That's what I've learned from the previous videos. Man, you know how much hate we got for putting Construct in F tier on our engine one? We're sorry about that. We know it's an engine, it has some use.
We know it's a engine. Good wording.
Let's jump into it. The first platform we have is mobile games. This is one that is one of the more common ones that developers go into.
E tier.
Okay, let me continue. I think what we need to look at here is what is a mobile indie game first. Some that I think about that are like indie is something like a Monument Valley. So, you know, Cookie Clicker, for example, I think also started as a mobile game. I'm not sure. Or a web game, but you know, there's like a whole lot of those hyper casual games. Those are great for mobile, but you know, I don't really, maybe call me elitist, but I don't really consider those like true indie games, like lots of passion and soul into it. Whereas, you know, something like a Monument Valley has actually been like crafted like very nicely.
That's half of the viewer base offended. Let's go.
Hey, we need a good hook, okay? Keep watching. Or another like indie game, for example, is something like Crossy Road, where it's very simple, but there's like, you know, it still has that like vibe of someone put some care and detail into it. That's generally the kinds of game that I envision. One other one is Opus Rocket of Whispers, which is a game that has been developed for mobile first from a small-ish studio, but it's not like indie in like the true sense of it's like 4 people, it's a bit bigger. But there it's already more like a complete polished game as you would see one on Steam, but instead ported more to mobile and being made mobile first.
So, is releasing on mobile good or bad? Let's talk about the good first. It probably has the largest install base of any platform here, because almost everyone has a phone. So, hey, great.
All of them kids on TikTok nowadays on their phones.
Or boomer moms and dads trying to play Candy Crush on the subway.
Indeed, Candy Crush as well.
But the downsides, first of all, you have a massive amount of competition. It is the platform that has the most games released per day, especially on Android.
Yeah, Android is brutal. If you like type in any string of words in Android on the Play Store and you have like 50 like games and apps with exactly that title.
On top of that, it's basically impossible, I think, to make a quote-unquote surefire hit because, well, you have so much competition and you need a massive amount of advertising budget to even stand out in the crowd or even be seen by more than 2 people.
Yeah, one thing that I've also noticed is that, you know, stuff like the app stores, they have like their game of the day. Something like this, if you are lucky enough to get picked, also like has massive impacts on like how good your game is actually performing or not. So it's not as easy to plan how successful it is.
A good thing about it is if you have a hit, for example, Stardew Valley, and you release on mobile, then it's a great platform because once again you have a large install base, but your fans can already push it enough that you don't really need to invest in a lot of...
Yeah, and also you need to have a success to begin with. So I don't think that's a valid argument really.
yeah, I just wanted to list, it's not entirely bad, just mostly bad.
I think what's also good about mobile is that generally the games are easier to develop. Generally there's not really much story, for example. It's more mechanics based or like visually based. I think a great example of this is also like Please Touch the Artwork, which is a Belgian game. It won some awards from Google Play as well. And it's a very visually pretty game, and it's also very casual. You just like, oh, you're waiting at the grocery store, you just pull up your phone and you play for a second. It's good if you make a game like that. And this also allows you to have a much quicker turnaround time. You can make like 5 games in like the time of one like polished PC game basically, because there's less expectations. If you have a game that's like half an hour to an hour worth of playtime, people are happy with that.
Yeah, so I think it's basically a high risk, high reward kind of platform with a very high risk and probably the highest reward of any of them.
I think the reward here also is very dependent. How are you monetizing? Do you gonna do in ads, in-app purchases, or are you gonna go for a premium game?
Premium is suicide, I think.
The thing premium is indeed suicide, but it's the most common one. I think what most indies go for is like the either free with ads, or you can like pay like €1 to get rid of the ads. The problem you have here also, I think, is because of the very low earnings in general on mobile, is you need to get a much higher install base really, and much more people playing your game. Whereas, you know, on Steam you can price it at like $10. If you price any game really on like your mobile store more than like €2 or $2, nobody ever wants to buy it, and it'll just end up getting cracked and whatever.
E tier.
I wouldn't go E, I would go C. It's not...
We basically only said bad things.
No, I said good things as well. I think it's good to get started, because if you're gonna commit to a PC game already, it's a lot harder, or like any other platform. This is...
Release on itch instead.
You're running ahead of the tier list. I think it's a C tier. I think that there's a lot of... Also, itch has their own problem. We'll get into that in a second.
Let's find common ground, D tier.
D tier. Can I do...
You wanted to offend those. You wanted to offend the viewers.
You're offending me right now.
Even better.
Let's go for D+, okay?
Sure.
That's the best I can do. It's not horrible. If you're making an indie game right now on mobile, don't sweat it if this is like one of your first games. If you're like...
Yeah, it's good to learn. It's good to, well, get started, get your feet wet.
So the next platform I want to talk about is HTML5, you know, like the web browser games, or like WebGL games, which is like you can export from Unity and probably some other engines to WebGL as well, which comes down to you don't have to install anything. You just open a browser and you go to a certain URL and immediately you can play the game. Some great examples of this that you will like 99% for certain have played is Slither.io, Shapes.io, any of the like, you know, .io games. They're HTML5 games. But do I think they're good? I think there's a problem with it, and it's similar to mobile, except it's even worse, and that is getting people to pay for your game. It's really hard in terms of actually making money from your game. Once again, they're much easier, there's much lower expectations to make a long game. I feel like web games, if you have like 5 levels, it's already good. It's like, you know, the Newgrounds games where, you know, you have some time, you don't really have a good computer, so you just want to play some games with like not fancy graphics. It's mostly like platformers and top-down 2D games. It's perfectly fine there, but monetizing that is a problem, I think.
Yeah, because like on mobile you can have microtransactions. I think it's less common in HTML5 already. So you're basically completely reliant on ads, I think.
Yeah, there's actually one thing here. There's a site, I haven't personally worked with them, but it's called Crazy Games, where they buy HTML games. They give you like a buyout fee. They give you like what, I don't know the exact values. Let's say $1,000, and then they put it on their site, and then all of the money they make with the ads, I think, goes from them. So they like try and invest, I guess, that way. But if I'm being honest, the other problem that HTML games has is they're very like low quality almost. It's, you know, it's not fully shovelware, but it's hard to find unique stuff. There's a lot of unique stuff, of course, but it's the same with mobile. There's just so much garbage that you need to sift through as well, with like 15,000 games that look the exact same. Let me actually go and open up the Crazy Games, and like, let's go and take like a 10-second look at it. But like, if you look at this, if you just look at like the concept art, it all looks similar to certain degrees. I feel like there's nothing here that I'm like, damn, this looks like great. Like, yeah, I want to play Traffic Control, whatever game it may be. It's
Fitness Club.
Yeah, there are like games that do have like some stuff that is like pretty good about them, but there's, as I said, there's so much stuff here that I'm also just like, you know, there's hundreds of the exact same game really. It's all just rebranded and like has like just a bunch of asset packs thrown together.
Yeah, I think this is basically mobile, but worse.
Yeah, again, you guys actually sent me quite a bunch of like HTML games to give feedback on, but I don't really like it. I don't think you should be spending time on making HTML games. One like maybe thing is we used to have an HTML build of our game as well, no?
Yeah, in the beginning we published Forge Industry as a HTML game, just so we could test quickly.
Yeah.
So it has its purposes, but I wouldn't bet on making money.
Yeah, I think a good purpose there could be if you like want to pitch to a publisher and you don't, and it's like, this is definitely not a virus exe. You can just send them the WebGL because it's very easy and you don't have to install anything. I think this one is E tier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
You want to fight me?
No, I'm looking. We need something in F tier, so I put this in F tier.
We don't need, you know what happened last time we put something in F tier. We're putting it in E tier.
I want to see the pitchforks again.
No.
F tier.
No,
F tier.
We're going
F tier.
It's E tier. Don't do it. It's in Thomas's mind, it's F tier. So just imagine him being very disappointed if you are making an HTML file.
I'm not disappointed.
And planning to, there's nothing wrong with it. Just don't plan to make money from it.
Or prove me wrong and give me part of the paycheck.
Next up, we're going a bit more into the traditional game development. And that is for the Nintendo Switch. So
are we talking about current Switch or the Switch 2 that we definitely have a dev kit for?
We have no dev kit, and even if I would have to kill you if you said anything about having a dev kit. You wouldn't leave this room.
I think the Nintendo Ninjas are near.
So this one we actually have consoles with PlayStation and Xbox. We separated them because I feel like before the Switch came out, Nintendo hated indies, basically. But now with the Switch, they were like, you know, actually indies, just all come and join us. I think you can say that we're also like part of the indie Nintendo program. We just can't say anything else or the ninjas will come and kill us.
I mean, we can say we are Nintendo partners, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And it was really easy for us to join. I can't like go into the full steps, but basically you just fill in a form almost and you get like access to it. So they have made it a lot easier for developers, and you also see that the Switch store is a very good mix now of like, you know, your Zeldas and your like AAA games. Some are a bit like, the Switch is even made for indies, because if you look at The Witcher 3, how it looks on Switch, it looks like absolute dog shit because, you know, the AAA games are very visual and the Switch just can't run it. It's like a 6-year-old tablet at this point. The one thing that makes it a bit harder for us though to fully rate this is that there's not really Switch exclusive indie games. That's not really a thing. So there are some games that are like Switch first almost. So for example, one game that I've played a lot of is Wizard of Legend, which is I don't know if you know it.
I don't know, but I know it's a Switch exclusive indie game.
Oh, okay.
The Last of Us clone, the shitty one, that got pulled down like 2 days ago. I think that's a Switch exclusive.
And it is probably an indie team, but that's not really the kind of game you want to make. But as I was saying, Wizard of Legend is a game that, you know, when you play that, you feel like it's made for Switch. Whereas there's other games that are more just made for controller support. And, you know, it's just, I add one export like setting to my Unity and now I have a Switch game almost. I think it's very nice to put your game on Switch if you can. And it's not that expensive. It's not that much extra time and effort usually. So if you do have like the extra time, and maybe don't do it if it's your first game, but if your game is a bit of a success, then I would go and put it on Switch. There's not really anything you can do wrong with it. It's quite easy. And the hardest problem is gonna be just making it like run on it, I think.
If it was 5 years ago, I would probably put Switch in S tier. Now I don't. Because I think if you start a new game today and you target Switch, depending on how long you plan to release it, it can be a risk. Because, well, Switch is probably going to stick around for a bit, but
there's actually been some rumors.
End of 2024.
Yeah.
We don't know anything. Don't kill us, Nintendo. Yeah, that the Switch 2 or whatever, the successor is coming. And you can target it, but if you start now a game, like our next game, if we plan on a release cycle of like a year or a year and a half, maybe you should consider. You can still release it on Switch, but also maybe the Switch 2 or whatever if a dev kit is available soon. So that's why I can't give it an S tier. I do think it's good, but I also think it's getting pretty saturated by indies because it's pretty meta now. Like for the past few years, it was like, let's release on Switch because that's the big money is there. Everyone buys on Switch. Now that hype is slowly tickling down, and now everyone wants to be on Game Pass. So
yeah, also because like it's just hard to run a game on the Switch because it's so slow. Like the black magic that's sometimes required to just get a game running.
The Witcher 3 is magic. And it looks decent enough in handheld mode, but don't put it on your big screen.
I would go for a B+.
Yeah, I was thinking A minor, so basically the same, I think.
Basically the same, yeah. It's not the best, but it's also not horrible. What is the best, definitely not biased here, is Windows. And I think we're just gonna go over like at least I'm planning on going on like a 5-minute rant about how great Windows is. Release on Windows. If you're a game developer, in my opinion, and you're like, I don't know what to do, make a Steam game, make a Windows game. We're not like gonna go into like the platforms of like Epic Games and Humble and like Steam. Make a Windows game, I think is the best one. It's the highest like platform with adoption. There's a very big user base on it as well. And yeah, you're gonna ruin my dreams.
No, I just think it's funny too. Here it's the best option, and then we have like 2 sales.
Well, we have more sales than Linux and
That's
Windows.
True. Yeah, I think it's a good platform. It's probably the best platform, if I'm already getting ahead of myself, but...
You knew what was gonna happen when you clicked this video. Don't lie that you didn't expect this to be...
Everyone expected augmented reality or HTML5 games to be S tier, while Windows is F tier.
Yeah. I think, let's not just waste too much time on this. Windows is the best platform. It is the most support. You can find the most like documentation because everyone is using it.
And Steam is pretty good at actually putting your game out there. Yeah. Compared to other platforms like on mobile, you get buried. In Steam, they at least give you a shovel so you can unbury yourself.
S tier. Perfect, you agree, S tier it is.
S minus.
No, it's S tier.
Next up is Oculus. You picked a funny image because that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
it's Meta now.
With Oculus,
MetaQuest, no, not Oculus.
Yeah, but the thing is,
we talked about VR.
Yeah, there's no like good Steam VR logo, so I was just like, whatever, Oculus, you know it. VR games in general, whether you do that through like the MetaQuest, as you say, or you have a Valve Index and you're rich, just a VR game, I think...
Pretty good.
Oof. It's good if you don't want to make money.
I think it's good if you want to make money.
Okay, this is... So...
We finally reached conflict.
I'm gonna tell you a little story here about the Belgian game dev scene. About 80% of all the studios in Belgium that are not Larian and us make VR games. But somehow I feel like a lot of the people here in Belgium haven't gotten the memo that like almost nobody owns a VR headset. So how are you gonna make money? Well, there's one way. If your game gets picked up by Meta and they like publish your game, then you get a fat paycheck. But if you're just doing it on your own, it's gonna be quite hard, I feel, to make like solid money with VR. It's just, it's releasing for Windows, but deciding to shoot yourself in the knee because suddenly you're releasing on Windows, so you have the advantage of like a big install base, but you're like, nah, I only want 1% of that install base to actually be able to play my game. So now
I hear what you're saying. However, the downside of releasing on Windows is you have a lot of competition, also from the last 25 years of games.
Yeah.
However, VR is pretty new, a lot less competition, a lot less old games, because don't forget this, but you are competing as an indie against The Witcher 3 that is now in sale for like $10, and you're like 15 euros for your own game. Yeah, good luck competing with that, even though that game is like 8 years old. So, of course, yeah, you have a more niche audience.
Hey, you're competing with the Virtual Boy, don't forget that one.
But yeah, you have a more niche market, sure, but your competition is also, well, you don't have as much competition. I think
still a lot of competition.
There's still a lot of competition, and I think 99% of the people that have a VR headset do adult things with it or play Beat Saber. One or the two.
Or both. Looking at you, Jamie. He plays a lot of Beat Saber.
Yeah, I think it's not as good as Windows, of course, but I think it's better as mobile.
That's a very low bar you need to preach.
Wait, you were...
I'm not saying mobile is great. I would put it at like a C+,
B.
Or a B. A B I can live with.
Yeah, I think it's not
I think
a
you
horrible
also
choice.
need to do VR because you're really passionate about it. I don't think you don't go into VR if you're not passionate about it, because if you're just passionate about making money, don't do this. If you just want to make an experience, VR allows you to make some very unique experiences that are like not really that hard, like, or like mechanically not that complex. Like for example, climbing a mountain. This is not like a complex mechanic, but it's just doing it in VR versus doing it on a computer screen is so completely different that it just works there.
Though another thing that I do think we might have glossed over is VR is great for educational games. Like, for example, if you want to make immersive sims for like safety or something like that, that's usually a way to make like a game, not publish it on Steam per se, but sell it to a company or license it or whatever. And I do think there is money to be made in that field as well.
Yeah, but then it's about the money and not about making the happy experiences for your players usually.
Some people might get happy about.
That's true. Some people get happy about it. Then there's nothing wrong with it, but there are like valid reasons to go into VR.
It's decent.
It's decent. It's B tier.
Yeah.
We agree. Nice.
Hi.
This next one I'm very curious about because we never like rehearse these things, and I don't really know your opinion on this. I like can't guess what you're gonna say. So we have PlayStation and Xbox.
I can't guess what I'm gonna say either.
Similar to Switch, they also got better at becoming more indie friendly. Like before, if you wanted to make a PlayStation game for like the PS3, it was basically impossible as an indie. You needed like a lot of like upfront cost for equipment and things like that. Whereas now it's similar to Nintendo. You have to go through a developer program. It's a bit more complex because you need to like pitch your game and they need to approve it. But Xbox on the other hand is just you buy an Xbox Series S and you pay $20 to unlock it as developer, and that's it. That's basically all you need to do to start developing on Xbox. So it's easy, and there is a lot of overlap, I guess, with like Windows as well, because in the end there's no like dedicated ASICs anymore. It's all just computers in the end, whether it's in a PlayStation or it's in a Xbox, it's the same CPU almost as it's running in your PC. Whereas before with like PlayStation 2 and 3, it was dedicated hardware. It was much harder to develop for it. I think it's similar to Switch though. It's, you know,
It's not similar to Switch.
you didn't even let me finish my sentence. I think it's similar to Switch in the terms of if your game has controller support, you just like tick a few extra boxes and you can already almost publish to the other platforms. I know it's not as easy as just ticking a few other boxes. Don't kill me in the comments, but it's not as hard as it used to be.
True.
But
So I think it's decent, but when I looked at stats a while ago, it's hard to really compare Switch to the PlayStation or Xbox because indie games just do worse on these platforms. These are usually the more hardcore gamers that are like into shooters or story-driven games.
No, I think it's also these are more just the more casual gamers who get a PlayStation for Christmas and every year they just buy the new FIFA game.
Yeah, true.
Or like
Maybe
yours.
the word hardcore wasn't correct, but I mean, these are not the
They're more
kind of
hardcore
people.
on like one type of game, really.
Yeah, these are not the kind of people that explore indie games usually. And of course you have your exceptions and people do buy it, just in way lower quantities from what I feel like. So our next game, I think we are going to target these platforms as well. So maybe in a year we revisit this or
Then we
2
know
years.
the stats for ourselves,
Yeah.
basically. But because of the ease to add to it, that's why we were like, you know, we can target it because we are getting that controller support, which is quite important. Because Forge Industry, for example, could never work because you can't play that game with a controller.
So oh god, now I think that VR is in a shit place. Because I think it's below Switch for sure. But it also feels kind of wrong to put it below VR. B tier?
B tier? Sure. Alright. Let's put it on B tier as well. I can live with that. Next up, we have augmented reality.
Do you have an example?
I have one, indeed. I have
Minecraft AR or something?
Minecraft Earth and Pokemon Go.
Oh, yeah,
Get wrecked.
Pokemon Go is a mobile game. Fuck you. Censor that.
It's an AR game. I think I take the subset here. AR is always mobile, I guess.
Is it though?
Look, we just...
Maybe with your Apple Vision Pro or your HoloLens?
That's true, that's true. We actually don't know what the future may bring there. Maybe that is a very good point. The Apple Vision Pro, but can you call it? No, it's like spatial vision or something.
It's AR.
Honestly, we brought this in to pad the video. I'm gonna be honest with you. We're gonna clown on it a bit and then we're gonna put it in F tier. Don't make this.
You want to put it in F tier?
You wanna say it's better than F tier?
No.
No.
I really, I mean, the 3DS had a cool AR game. Like, you had your faces flying around, you have to shoot balls at it.
I think if we are gonna like defend AR for a second, I think AR, because AR games are also made in Unity most of the time. And actually some of the Belgian game developers that I talk to, they don't make games, they make more of those, learning experiences, and like AR experiences for example, industry where like you like scan a material or like HoloLens for like remote operations of like fixing things, where someone can like AR indicate like this is the bolt you need to unscrew. It works there, and you do need like AR skills and Unity skills to make those games. But don't do this if you have a passion for fun and like making other people happy. It's more of I have a passion for money. There's probably some solid money in it, but it's not the easiest to go into.
Yeah, I think for games, this is probably not the best route. Please pick something else. If you want to make money, you probably can go to like a big company that makes like cars, like go to a BMW or whatever and say, yo, I can give your mechanics a way to view where the parts are at all times or whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe they will splurge some money on your face.
This video just went downhill. F tier.
S tier. Oh, wait, what? Yeah, F tier.
F tier.
Oof. And now the big kicker. Companion of Windows. Release on Apple or Linux?
Yeah.
No.
Can we maybe structure this a bit more? So Windows has the biggest platform, and for Forge Industry we had originally targeted Windows, Mac and Linux, but we actually killed Linux support. It works with like
Proton.
Proton does work with it.
And that's actually also the reason why I think you probably shouldn't target Linux, even Mac, because you can run it through Rosetta, I think.
Yeah, but still, we're still targeting Mac native as well.
Yeah, we still target it, but if you're starting out, I probably wouldn't bother.
Because unless you like develop on a Mac, that's like the only way.
Okay,
but
sure.
Because we've had a lot of bugs as well that are like Mac specific, and that's also why we ended up dropping Linux, is because we don't use Linux ourselves enough, so we couldn't validate if the game we're making would actually work well on Linux. So we're like, okay, look, we're just gonna scrap Linux. Also, I think Linux and Mac is like, of the sales we have, it's like at most 5%. So there is a very big difference in like how popular like the platforms are. And it's usually not worth that like extra development time. Also, if like those platforms have a lot of extra bugs that you don't have on Windows, which is often the case, it also just costs you more time that you could spend on like making new features and things like that.
Yeah, I think the only reason we have Mac support is because Jamie uses a Mac. Because otherwise I probably would have said we should skip it.
Yeah.
So,
D tier?
D or E? Because I kind of feel bad for HTML games if we put it.
Let's put it halfway.
Now people are going to say it's better to target like 1% Linux users than make an HTML5
Don't
games.
make a game only for Linux. Make it... I don't know who needs to hear this.
Yeah, if you need to hear this, you're probably way off.
If you make a game for Linux and Mac, always make it for Windows as well. Otherwise, what are you doing? I don't know what you're doing here, but you're not doing something smart.
Yeah.
You thought the video was done, but no.
So did I, but...
A surprise entry appears, because I've been thinking about this video, because we didn't really address that one. Steam Deck, what about that? Because it's not really like Linux exactly.
I mean, it is Linux.
Yeah, it runs, but it's not the same, and it's also not really like a Switch. And we actually have Steam Deck support somewhat. We have validated it. And I think that that is something that as an indie, you should do maybe. Actually, I've recently been getting some games to feedback, and I always try them on my Steam Deck as well. Because there are some games I'm like, oh, this can easily run with like controller support on like a Steam Deck. Or even, you don't need full controller support. You still have the like trackpad, touchpad thingies and a touchscreen. You can get it working usually. And it's really nice to like take on the go or whatever. And it's, Steam also likes it when you make games that are like Steam Deck compatible.
Yeah, I think we're talking about Steam Deck specifically now, but in general, things like the ROG Ally, those GPD Win,
yeah, like
the other things,
the handheld Windows Linux PCs.
They are also growing. And even if you don't make a native Linux port, but just run it through Proton and make a Windows build.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. Even then, you can already see how it looks on a small screen and things like that. It's a great step in the right direction because I think it's a growing market. There's a reason so many companies are jumping on the bandwagon of trying to compete with the Steam Deck, but in the Windows version then. So I think it's a growing market. It's good to target it. Just like, don't just do Steam Deck.
I mean, if it's on
Steam.
Steam Deck, it's also on Windows or a
Yeah.
platform. Don't do just Steam Deck and Linux, or I will personally come to your house and like burn it down.
Tech tip guarantee.
I would put it at a B plus maybe. I think it's not hard to add.
It's not hard to add, so it's for the amount of effort it takes for the result, it's probably B tier, though it feels wrong to put it alongside the rest, so I put it in C.
Okay. I can live with that. Consider Steam Deck, and I would put it in with it as well. Anyways, that was our very smart opinion about these things. Of course, what do we know? You know more. Go ahead, post it in the comments. You probably have like 15 different platforms we missed as well, or disagreed by like this certain platform, why AR is the best because we're dumb or something. Let us know in the comments down below. We love to hear from you guys. We love to interact with you guys.
And if you love roller coaster videos like this, where it's just a big giant ball of mess, do make sure to like and subscribe, because we do make videos twice a week.
The videos aren't just roller coasters in my defense. We share our experience as a game developer. We talk about game design things. We talk about tutorials, for example, or when we go to gaming events, we vlog them as well. Basically anything. If you're a game developer and you're interested in the world of game development, go ahead and subscribe. We make videos about it, most likely, that you will probably enjoy. Anyways, that's all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.